Welcome back to this week's episode of Success Through Connections. Don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can hear all of our episodes. So, this week I have a really cool guest. His name is Ford Saeks. I actually have been aware of him for over 20 years when I used to go to the Speakers Association meetings in South Florida. He was a big shot then, and he's a bigger shot now. And so I'm so excited to have him. I recently had the opportunity to listen to Ford at a speakers meeting in Central Florida where he spoke about branding, and it was such an incredible talk. He was speaking to a number of really seasoned professional speakers. So I was just in awe of everything he was saying, taking a million notes. So I'm so glad that he's here. Let me tell you a little bit about Ford's background. You're going to be impressed. So he has helped generate billions of dollars in sales revenues for companies from startups to Fortune 500 companies. He's really known as a true business accelerator. And who doesn't want to accelerate their business, right? So he helps businesses streamline their operations, master their marketing, and most importantly, create remarkable customer experiences. I love that. That's my thing. And those experiences, keep customers coming back. So he has a great gift for leveraging your brand, building relationships, and turning those connections into not just repeat customers, but referrals. That's what the name of the game is, referrals. So, we have a world that's filled with competition. It's so fierce these days. And a torch and attention spans are really tiny. So he talks about how to create some strategies that not only stand out, but they stand the test of time. And that's what's important. So let me tell you that he has written several books. He has 3 US patents. He's won numerous industry awards, president of the Prime Concept Group. And I know that he and Randy Gage, who was on the show about 2 or 3 weeks ago, are going to launch an AI course. We'll have to get into that as well because I know that's going to be powerful. And we're just going to explore customer experiences that lead to growth today, and maybe some branding and relationships. We're just going to get into it. I can just honestly say that Ford Sakes is a powerhouse. So, welcome, Ford.
Well, thank you so much. What I wanted to let everybody know is I'm not here. It's not about me. The show's not about me today. It's about your listeners. So whether you're watching this live or whether you're listening to the podcast or whether you're watching a replay, I want you to be open-minded and coachable. And, with all those accolades, oh, I've done all these things. I've also made a lot of mistakes and lost a lot of money. While I've had 17 different companies, 2 were 7-figure, 1 was 8-figure. I understand what it takes to grow. And the more I've learned, Zelda, the more I know I don't know. So I'm open to the conversation. Let's get started.
The more I know, the more I don't know. Yeah, my mother used to tell me, the older I get, the dumber I get. Sometimes I feel that way. It's like, and then you keep hearing all over social media and everywhere. It's like, you've got to make the mistakes, you've got to make the failures in order to succeed. But boy, the climb uphill is a tough climb sometimes.
It can be, but I don't want to affirm that for your listeners. It can be easy, if you're asking the right
Yes,
question.
that's what we want. We want easy. So, you are known for being ahead of the curve in marketing. So, what are some trends that you see right now that businesses absolutely just cannot afford to ignore?
Well, it goes without saying that AI is a huge disruptor right now. And
Yeah.
in our business, everybody with a laptop is now an AI expert. Everybody who can't make it as a leadership speaker is an AI expert. And a lot of them are giving a lot of book reports. And what I would say to everybody listening is you're probably going to fall into one of two camps. You're either in the group of, I'm a little overwhelmed. There's all these new tools. They're changing quickly. I don't want to talk to my phone. And I'm worried about the Skynet taking over the world. And then you have those other people that have played with AI and they're probably dangerously overconfident that they think they've got it figured out because they were able to go to ChatGPT and make a prompt and so forth. So the real value here is this disruption is going to disrupt every aspect of your business from operations, finance, accounting, customer experience, and sales and marketing. It's going to affect staffing. It's going to affect workflow, accountability, everything, the social side of business. And it's really important for your listeners to think about how is AI going to impact their business now? How is it going to impact in the future? And how can they prepare for those changes that are definitely going to come, regardless if they think they are or not?
How do you prepare? I mean, we don't have a crystal ball.
Oh, I do. I have
You
several
have
of
a
them
crystal
actually.
ball?
Yeah, I actually do. I actually do because people you would say, what? Do you have a crystal ball? So I finally went out and got one to say, yeah, I do.
I
You
did
know,
that for real estate. I was like, "Let me go get my crystal ball so I can tell you what's gonna happen."
yeah, exactly. And so here's the deal. I don't know exactly who your listeners are, if they're business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or large or medium size. It doesn't matter. The key is you need to take a real inventory of where you are now
Mhm.
and make a list of what are the tasks that you do most frequently that are redundant. Anything that you spend a lot of time on. And then you want to look at how can you leverage AI to do that. And I've got all kinds of YouTube videos. You can check me out. If you're listening to this and not watching, my name is Saeks. You can subscribe to the Business Growth Show podcast. I'm on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Central. I'm also live, but I've got some YouTube videos that are free. Everybody can just go on there and look. And I do them about once a month. I do an AI masterclass where I reveal insights and how to turn AI confusion into your competitive advantage. So you first have to understand what's going wrong and what do you want to use it for. For example, Zelda, do you have a custom GPT for your show, for this show?
A custom GPT? No, I have a guy over in Africa who takes care of it once I recorded it.
Right. Right. So what you could do is you could go to Perplexity
Yeah.
and you could say, I'm Zelda. I'm the host of this show. I have these guests like Bob Burberg and Randy Gage and Ford Sakes. And I want you to create instructions for a custom GPT to be my podcast producer and do everything related to my podcast, the messaging, the thank you messaging, the show intros, the show hooks, everything. And
Mhm.
so then you would just put in, my next guest is Ford Sakes. It's going to go out, it's going to research me, it's going to research my clients, it's going to research something interesting about me. And then because it knows your show and it knows your listeners, it's going to create a show hook. So, like right now, you started the show. Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's Zelda. We're going to be talking with Ford Sakes. But what I would recommend you do is you start with a compelling show hook. So you start first by saying, have you ever wondered how AI is going to disrupt your business? And then you'd stop. Hey, I'm Zelda, the host of Success Connections, blah, blah, blah. And today's guest is Ford Sakes. Now, you can learn more about him on LinkedIn. Let me tell you a couple things about him. All right, let's get started. So you'd start with a show hook, then you do your intro, then you do your content. Now, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm sharing for
Oh,
your
this
listeners
this is gold.
that AI can do that heavy lifting for you. Because I know I have to do my episode, I have to record, and it's like, oh gosh, what am I going to talk about? How am I going to make this interesting? And I know you've got some prepared questions that I'll let you get to. But the key is everybody here listening, no matter what you think you know about AI, you don't know, and that there's always more to learn.
It's always changing, and there's so many. It's like, I was glad to hear you just now mention Perplexity because everybody thinks ChatGPT is everything, and it's great, but there's so many other ones, and there's new ones coming on. It's like,
Yeah, and you want to, you don't want to get seduced by technology. You want to focus on one thing. Start small, get complicated later. Perplexity is a great tool. I use it instead of Gemini. Perplexity has a new browser out now. I instead of Google, excuse me. Perplexity has a new browser out called Comet. So now, when you're instead of going to Google, I don't go to Google, even though I use Google Chrome. Google Chrome has now embedded Gemini. So everybody is trying to use AI in it. So Google Chrome has Gemini, Microsoft has Copilot, Perplexity now has Comet, and ChatGPT has what's called agent mode. So they're all taking it to the next level. They started with, the AI models, and now it's gone to AI browsers and agents and real digital assistants. And that's where people are starting to see the real value of AI in their business. And especially in your business in making connections. So how do you use AI to build connections?
very good, very good. So, there's so many trends. AI is one, and that's the biggest one right now. That's the disruptor, as you said, and we all know it. But how can you identify which trends are out there that are worth following, and maybe the ones that are just a bunch of noise?
So let's give it context. You mentioned in the show opening, I'm the president of Prime Concepts Group, which is a digital marketing agency. I've been helping brands bridge the gap between where they are and where they want to go for decades, especially as it relates to their value propositions. So when you think about trends and you ask the question, well, what trends are out there and how should we pay attention to them? I would say everything starts with context. In marketing, there's only three ways to generate traffic: create it, borrow it, or buy it. You're going to create it with your content. Well, if you're trying to create content, if you know what the trends are, then you're more likely to create content that's going to be findable, timely, topical, and relevant, content that's going to be found by the search engines. And more importantly, especially now that the search engines have all changed to be AI engines, you need to create content that the AI engines can find and then attribute to you. It used to be SEO, where you would put content with keywords and content that would get ranked in the search listings. Well, the search listings are gone. Go to Google. The search listings aren't on the page anymore. They've pushed them to page 2. Now you have sponsored ads and AI answers. So if you want your content to show up in the AI answer, especially if it relates to current trends, you're going to want to create content that's unique to you, tying into the current trend. And then that's going to help you show up. So you might say, okay, well, what's a simple way to do this? Go to Perplexity, give Perplexity what I call the check method. It's CECH. So first, it's context. What's the context? So back to Zelda and the listeners here. I'm Zelda, and I'm the host of It's Success Connections, and I'm going to help you grow your business through having innovative guests. I'm also a keynote speaker and blah, blah, blah. All right. So you give it context. What's your expectations? I want you to help me find a detailed description of my ideal client and the current challenges facing each industry and the trends in each industry. So now you've got expectations. So context, then expectations. Then the next thing is to go and have a conversation. So where most people fail with AI is they say, give me the trends in real estate. And that's not really very specific. But if you have a conversation and you say, I'm Zelda, I'm a top real estate agent in this area, and I'm looking to discover how I can get more listings and close more deals, or whatever the question would be. So then you have the conversation. So you go back and forth with the AI. It's not a one question, one and done. It's back and forth. And then here's the most important thing. Stop your car, turn on the recording, take an asterisk, highlight your notes. Keep the human in the loop. Where most people fail with AI is they get comfortable quickly with ChatGPT or the other tools.
Yes.
They start copying and pasting without reading it, and then they end up doing brand damage. Because if you're trying to create content to get found and AI is writing it, AI can detect it, and then it just blacklists you. So it doesn't really help you to do that. Certainly there's some ways around that you can customize it. But to your original question, use AI to solve AI problems. So if you're looking for trends, go to Perplexity, even if you have a free account, and just give it the context, give it the expectations, have a conversation, but then make sure you have human oversight.
That's so important because you can tell when it's AI generated. You
Most of the time, yeah. And you can. I mean, I used to use M dashes all the time in my writing because I'm a copywriter. Well, now AI has overused M dashes. So now, even though I've written copy with AI for years, I have to take the M dashes out in a lot of
Yes.
cases because, but I used to use them all the time because that was a natural way of writing copy. But now, since people aren't used to using them, now it stands out.
Yes.
Same thing with overuse of emojis. One of the phrases I don't like is, to tell you the truth, I just don't like that phrase. Like, I don't use that. Or, I hope this email finds you well. I
Well,
don't
yes.
talk like that.
I hate that. It's like that's a dead giveaway.
Right now, 3 years ago, it would have been really polite, but now it's overused.
Yes, put the human element in it. I love it. So, Ford, my listeners are, I would say most of them are business owners, entrepreneurs, and I would say
Okay.
probably small to mid-size. And we know that the economy is rough right now, so marketing budgets are tighter than ever. What would you recommend business invest in first for the greatest revenue return?
Well, the first thing I'd recommend they do is go to my website at primeconcepts.com. Look for the free digital critique. There's nothing to buy anybody. But if you want me to look at your digital footprint, which includes your search engine rankings, your website, your conversions on your website, your e-commerce or workflows, lead magnets, to look at your social media, your Google business, and your business directory listings. If you want a digital footprint critique, I will give it to as a gift to the listeners that are here on this show. And if you don't want to use me, then you should do it yourself. So one of your action steps would be put yourself in the mind of the prospect, go to Google, type in a question that you know your customer would ask. So maybe I would type in, I just started my business. I'm in my local market. I have a pressure washing business and I want to learn how to network. How do I build better connections? Well, if Zelda has content on tips, ways, keys, secrets, methods, myths on how to use local networking and connections to build relationships, and she's got lots of content, and she shares the content and she repurposes this episode and she uses descriptions and keywords and tags, then what happens is when that prospect isn't looking for Zelda, isn't looking for me, but they're looking for a solution, then they find that content. And so it's the same with their business. So what they need to do as an action step is put yourself in the mind of your ideal prospect and then go to Google, search, see what comes up. Go to ChatGPT, see what comes up. Because you can absolutely put my name into ChatGPT. Anybody listening can go, I was just listening to a podcast with Zelda Greenberg, and the guest today was Ford Saeks. Who is this guy? Is he the real deal or is he just full of, and they'll tell you, AI, Ford is this, here's my accolades because I've done a good job of letting AI know who I am. So the action step again is to put yourself in the mind of the prospect, go look at your own website, go fill out your own contact forms. I've done this for people, Zelda, and it's like, so you want people to call you? Yeah, I want people to call me. Where's your phone number? Well, it's on the contact page. Oh, so you're going to make me click 2
Do
pages to get your phone
everything.
number? And that kind of thing. So it's putting yourself and using a little big dose of common sense.
Boom. I love it. You're so funny. Oh my goodness. I love it. I'm gonna have to have you come all the time. So some businesses, and I used to be one that chases every single shiny new object. Oh gosh, it was awful. I learned not to do that anymore. But how do you help leaders decide which ones they should use that fit their brand and which ones are just distractions?
So first, start with your outcome in mind. Make sure you have a clear mapping of your customer journey. Map out all your touch points with your customer, and then ask, where can technology help me? Whether that's in delivering the product or service, whether that's in creating the product or service, whether that's in the sales process, or whether that's in the back end for the accounting. Again, the wheel of excellence is, you have operations, leadership, marketing, and sales. So what category is the one that you're trying to improve? As far as which tool to use, you have to have a decision making matrix. And at the top of the decision is, what's our outcome? Have we solved this problem before? Who should we consult with? Is there a standard operating procedure that we can follow? Is there a process? And then what technology do we have? And then map out, is this the highest and best use of my time? Because there's a lot of things you could be doing that you shouldn't be doing. And so, like, Zelda's got this episode, she's going to get it produced and published, and she's got someone to do that heavy lifting. She shouldn't do it herself, but she should absolutely do the show hooks and the interview questions and the follow up to the guest and the emails and all that, because that's something that's quick and easy, and she has control over the brand. So when it comes to your business, and we're not just talking about AI now, it could be any tool, whether it's QuickBooks or WordPress or Gravity Forms or, whatever tool, Slack, whatever you're using, you want to evaluate if you're really using it effectively. Now, what you can do is you can also get smarter with AI, and you can go upload all your technology stack into a document and then go to Perplexity and say, here's my customer journey. Here's all the technology I have. Here's how all my employees spend their time. How can we improve efficiencies? Because you see, AI has read all the books, watched all the TED Talks, done everything, and it has 100% recall. So you and I have been in this industry for decades. We've seen lots of speakers. But what percentage are we going to recall from those keynotes or from those workshops or from those episodes? I mean, I've done almost 500 episodes in my podcast. There are times when someone calls me and someone will say, well, David's on the phone, David's whatever the name is. And I'm like, well, who the hell is that? And they're like, you just had him on your show last month. but I don't even remember who it was because that's 10 episodes again, even though I spent an hour with them on the phone. And maybe you'll say it's old person syndrome. But what I would tell you is if I don't have things written down and organized, it's not going to happen. So going
Right.
back to your key point is there's your most people are making it too hard because it's the way they're thinking as opposed to the way they're working.
Good stuff right there. Yes. Oh my gosh. What did we do before AI? I don't even want to think about it. So, one of the things that I was thinking about when you were saying all this was I know that I've had this trouble before. Is there, without, I guess you go to AI to do it, but I know that when I hire people to do this legwork, this heavy lifting, that I'm a boomer. I'm not going to do that technology stuff. So I do what I can do well and pass on the other stuff. But is there a way to determine like a checklist for hiring a marketing company or someone? It's like, do you write down, okay, these are all the tasks that I need done? And how do you interview them and determine the right one to hire?
Okay, so just full disclosure, everybody, I did not tell her to ask these questions.
No.
But what I would say is this: don't go to a vendor and ask tactical questions. Go to the vendor and ask strategic questions. Does that vendor know how to answer strategic questions? So, for example, we build e-commerce, build personal brands, build websites for speakers, authors, and experts, and our fees are 10 times higher than most people because we actually produce a result. And people will say, well, I can get my website done for a tenth of that. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead, spend the tenth. You're not going to get any business. So you're basically, whatever you're spending, you're wasting anyway. So call me in 6 months, a year when you haven't gotten any business. And then you've wasted a lost opportunity cost by not
Yeah.
getting this all done the way you should have. But the questions you should be asking are outcome based. And if someone comes to me, for example, and says, I want you to build a website, I'm a speaker. I want an about us page, a topics page, a clients page, a contact page, my workshop page, my podcast. I'm like, stop. I don't need to hear any of that. Oh, but you need to know what I want. No. What's your outcome? Like, what are you trying to do? Well, I'm a speaker. Okay. How much do you get paid? Do you want to get paid more? Do you want to get found more? Are you speaking to associations or corporations? What are you trying to do? So I'm going to ask strategic questions so that I know what the target is. I'm not going to listen to tactical of someone, the blind leading the blind. And what happens to a lot of people when they go to a vendor is they don't know what they don't know. So they tell the vendor, this is what I want. The vendor doesn't ask qualifying questions and then it fails and then everybody's unhappy. It's because they didn't start with strategy first. So strategic questions first. If the person vendor, and it doesn't matter what the topic is, if they're not clear on if they're not clarifying outcome and expectations before tactics, then they're the wrong vendor.
I think I would be asking questions like, you're the expert. What do I need to get this outcome of I want,
Right, and like I would say,
what do you
Zelda,
do?
if you're asking the wrong question, the answer doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So a lot of times prospects don't ask the right questions, and as a vendor, it's your responsibility, or as a business owner, if someone comes to you for your business. Like, for example, Zelda, I'm a speaker. If someone if someone called me and said, "Hey Ford, we're interested in having you at our conference. What's your fee?" If I say 25 grand, probably the next thing I'm going to hear is a dial tone, right? So they're asking me a fee question, but that's not really what they're asking. What they're really asking is, what can you do for our organization? Is this going to be worth it? Are you going to protect our brand? Are you going to help us, create an impact? So when anybody asks you a price question, you never reveal price before value. So as any business listener listening to this, service business, home-based business, I don't care what your business is,
Yep.
you don't really, if someone says, I want you to help me list my house, what's your fee? Well, that's a little different because it's contractual, but at the same time, it's about value. So as soon as someone asks a price question, if I haven't delivered value and I know they're focused on price, I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm probably not a good fit because if you're making the decision based on price, there's always going to be someone cheaper, but
Yes.
there's not going to be someone better. So if
Mm,
you'd like to talk about how to create your outcome and make the investment a return, I'm all ears. If you're just looking for price, I'm probably not the right speaker. And I had this conversation with someone who was looking for sales training because I do that. And they're like, I want you to do a workshop. And I said, okay, it's 20 grand. And they said, well, we've got someone that's going to do it for 7,500 or 5 grand. I said, okay, great. And I said these exact words. Well, there's always going to be someone cheaper. And let me ask you a question. On a scale of 1 to 10 for your salespeople, do you want them to be tens? Oh, yeah, I want them to be tens. And I said, so why would you hire a sales trainer that hasn't even learned how to be a 10 in his own industry to come in and teach you how to be a 10 in your industry?
So
So
true.
I'm a 10. If you'd like to have me, yeah, I'm not going to be the cheapest. And I never would like, do you want me to have your salespeople compete on price? That's not a winning strategy. So I have the conversation about value, not from a point of arrogance, but from a point of education to let them know that it's never about money. I don't care what anybody on this, listening to this or watching this has done. Whatever you spend, it's never been about the money. It's always been about the value you get. It's not about the money. And so you got to position your offers effectively. And that's something that I do as an agency and as a strategic business advisor is I work with them to make sure they have clear value propositions because if they're not getting the conversions they want, the traffic they want, the viewers they want, the opt-ins, the sales, the referrals, it's because they're not communicating the value. So if you don't have the right message going to the right market, you're going to fail.
You're off. Yeah. So there's so many different types. I know that you're into, most people are into digital marketing. That's the thing that's what we do these days. But where do you see a place, or do you even think there's a place for the old fashioned direct mail and networking? Where do you see that fitting in to alongside with all the digital trends going on?
Well, I'm going to take it one step further, and I'd say the digital trends and the AI disruption. Look,
Mhm.
all marketing and sales is giving people enough of the right information that they can make an informed decision. Every marketing method works. Direct mail works. Door to door sales works. Inside sales, outside sales, telemarketing works. Not the spammy crap that we get about updating our Google business listing, but it does work. So again, your formula isn't the method. The formula is what's my value proposition? What's my customer journey? At what point in the customer's journey do people need content and what type of content do they need to make a decision? When I say content, video, audio, in-person, phone call, meeting, whatever. And that includes networking, right? Some people would say, well, with AI, why would I network? I can just use AI to do everything. And what I would say to those listeners is, think about when you call a company and you get a phone tree. Press one for this, press two for Spanish, press one for English, and they don't speak English, and then press three for the sales department, and then you get the wrong routing. And, it's like you call an airlines and they say, well, while you're on hold listening, your call is really important to me. So for instant access, visit us online. You go online and it says, if you have questions, check out our chat bot. You go to the chat bot and they say, we can't do anything. You need to call us. And so you get this mess of technology that's supposed to improve the customer experience. So the answer to your question is while continues to disrupt and take certain responsibilities in the business model, the human skill is the real asset. The ability to communicate, send a thank you card, send a small gift, network, check in on somebody, thank you, happy birthday. Doing those personal touches are where the brands in the future are going to accelerate. Yes, you should use technology. I'm a technology guy. Yes, I believe in all these, but I believe in the human connection. That's why I'm doing the podcast because you're going to introduce me to people I don't know. I can repurpose it. I'll do a humble brag. Hey, I was just on Success Connections. Go listen to the episode, right? And
Right.
so you want to have those face to face, ear to ear, toe to toe experiences. And so as a business, be careful you don't automate yourself out of business where you lose the connection, the human connection. That's where a lot of people are doing it right now. They're failing because they're getting all seduced by AI and they're jumping both. And I love AI, I love it, but I only look at AI through the business lens. I do not care about the technology. I care about is it going to help me build a relationship,
Mhm.
expand my influence, increase the average transaction, and improve operational efficiencies.
Totally. I'm all about the human connection. That's when I speak, that's what I talk about. Networking, right? To build an authentic connection. And so I know that one of your topics that you talk about, and some of the people that I referred to at the very beginning wanted to know more about the customer service experience. So, can you talk to us a little bit about how to deliver a really creative customer experience?
it starts again mapping out your journey, but what's the experience you're trying to create? Price has a lot to do with it. The more price, the better the experience it should be, but you should always deliver a great experience regardless of the price. But I'm just saying, if someone spends 25 grand, it's a little bit different if they spend 20 bucks, right? It's a different decision, different transaction. But from the human experience, I think the key is it starts with getting mission, vision, and values, but not from a plaque on your wall, even though I've got plaques on my wall of those things. It starts with making sure that your organization is living it. What's acceptable behavior in your organization? I mean, we've seen all kinds of things on social media where people are getting fired or canceled because they're voicing their opinions. And I'm all for free speech. I'm a free speech person, but you also have to realize that there's a place and time for everything, and maybe it's not appropriate, right?
Correct.
That's all I'll say there. And for the purpose for everybody listening here, this is not political. This episode is for information, educational purposes only. If you
Yes.
love the episode, thank her. If you hate it, give me the crap on my LinkedIn or something else. But I would say, that the human experience really comes down to authenticity and transparency. The brands that people follow going forward are not the brands with the best products. They're brands that have a footprint where their leadership is actually visible and transparent and communicating to where it's clear. Like, for example, I buy food for my dog, which is laying right at my feet. I have a Labradoodle, and I buy food from the farmer's dog. And we're not going to debate dog food, but
Right.
I buy the farmer's dog. But one of the reasons is their emails they send. Hey, how's Luna doing? They're checking in. Hey, we got a new flavor this month, or thank you for your order. Now, maybe they were all AI generated, but they were authentic enough that it keeps me connected to the brand. So even though I get
Absolutely.
solicited to go switch to all these different
Yep.
foods,
Yep.
and now everybody listening to this podcast, all their Alexa devices and Amazon devices and Siri are going to start activating, giving you dog food ads.
Of
Sorry,
farmers.
dog food there. Now everybody's going to get dog food ads. But I would say, you just have to ask yourself, is it working? And the other thing is, there's an old thing, Zelda, you know about this, the net promoter score on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being best. How likely would you refer me to a friend or colleague? So you ask your market, would you refer us? Well,
Yeah.
if they answer below 6, they're probably going to work against you. They're sevens and eights are neutral. So if they're not giving you nines and tens, they're probably not going to refer you.
Yeah.
So, you can old school works. Back to your original question. Every method works, but you have to test, track what's working, modify one thing, retest, and then celebrate.
Yeah. That's what a marketing expert told me several months ago. It's like, marketing is testing. It's testing. If this we do A, then we do B. We test. I'm like, okay, I get it. So it's not going to be a one hit wonder. So I get it. So tell us a little bit more about the course that you and Randy are getting ready to launch. The master.
So it depends on what date this episode airs. Now, full disclosure, everybody, a lot of people will broadcast it's live. Like my show, when I start my show, I'll say, this is Ford. We're live right now on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube because my staff is monitoring all those platforms. But I used to do live recordings, but the guests wouldn't show up, their mic wouldn't work. So I just said, okay, we're gonna pre-record these episodes. So the real question is, depends on when this episode airs. But here's what I would tell you. It's gonna be October 9th, I think it is, at from 1 to 5 and 1 to 5 Eastern. And if you go to profitrichresults.com/AI hyphen powered hyphen empire. So it's profitrichresults.com. If you're watching live, it's on the screen on my little moniker. Just put AI hyphen powered hyphen empire. So it's AI powered empire. If you go to that page, before the event, you can register. If you go to that event and this episode airs after the live date, you'll be able to watch the replay. So what I would recommend is if you're interested in really leveraging this is not a free masterclass. This is a paid one because we wanted to roll up our sleeves and actually work with the participants to give them automated workflows to position themselves, because the greatest fear right now is irrelevancy. And a lot of speakers, authors, trainers, consultants, and small businesses are going to become irrelevant when AI can solve the problem. So we're going to attack that topic head on and work with people that are there and also people that are on the replay that send in questions to help them really understand, how do I improve the cost to acquire a new customer and lead? How do I build my list? How do I get AI to catalog and use my content? And how do I get traffic? Because the biggest challenge right now is a lot of businesses are losing business because Google has changed. And what they used to rely on Google, they can't anymore because the search engines aren't giving them traffic. So where they built their business based on Google, now they're struggling and they're like a duck under the water with their legs going fast, trying to figure out how am I going to get business? And that's what we're going to cover. So it's 1 to
When is the
5,
meeting
October
again?
9th. Yeah.
October 9th. I
Yeah.
will talk to my production crew and say, we need this one ASAP before
Yeah. If you can publish this one sooner, then all your guests are going to get it. And again, if they don't, then they'll have to watch the replay.
replay. Got it. So so the best way to reach you or your company is give us the website again or the whatever it is information.
So thank you so much. So the best way, the question, everybody, it's on the screen. You can Google my name, Ford Saeks, Saeks. My information's all over. I'm not in the witness protection program. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, WhatsApp. I mean, I'm everywhere. And I should be because I want people to be able to find me. But certainly when it comes to speaking, if they're interested in a training or a one-on-one strategic advising, go to profitrichresults.com. If they're looking for done for you services and they're looking at, okay, how do I actually, you know, hire someone that knows what they're doing, they can check out primeconcepts.com.
Very good. Thank you, Ford. That's great. So I have a question that I ask every guest. It's my signature question. So I'm going to ask that for you today. It's can you share a story of how an opportunity presented itself to you through a connection that you had, or how you opened the door of an opportunity for someone else because of that connection that you had?
Certainly. Well, in answering that question, there were so many stories that came to my mind. That was the one prepared question that you sent ahead of time. And I would just tell you this, in my line of work, decisions do not happen before dialogue, which means people have to communicate. No one's hiring a 20,000, 25, I'm 25 US and 50 international. No one's paying 25 grand for a keynote speaker if they haven't seen something or spoke to someone who refers me. They're just not going to make that time a buying decision. And so the human connections are huge. So not to tell another tactic, but the story. So I'll just tell you one story. I can remember I was speaking at a group in Philadelphia called Comcast, and they own the Philadelphia Flyers and 76ers. And I was doing some training for their general managers on how they could improve system-wide sales. And so when I got done, the vice president said, "Hey, I've got this other speaker. He could really use your help." I said, "Well, who is he?" And they said, "Les Brown." I said, "I know who Les Brown is." He didn't know who I was, but I knew who he was, Golden Gavel winner, motivational speaker, top person in the world. Now he's a little more retired now, but this was, 30 years ago, 20 years ago.
He's on my
And,
bucket list.
yeah. And so so they said, "Well, Les really needs your help." So I reached out to Les 3 or 4 times and he kind of blew me off. And finally he called me one day and said, "Okay, I'm interested." I flew to New York and I ended up taking over Les Brown's business. So I saved him $90,000 a month in overhead, took him from 1 million to 3 million in sales in 6 months. So I tripled his business in 6 months and helped him do 2 book deals, an infomercial deal, booked him for the Georgia Dome for 80,000 people, helped him really leverage. And, he was someone I highly respected. Now, from that time, that grew to every relationship. So what I would tell you is every significant event in my life was because of a connection. A quick side story, Anita Quabain, who's the president of High Point University and a Hall of Fame speaker and a billionaire and very successful. He sits on the boards of major companies. I met him at NSA 30 years ago, built a relationship with him. Everybody else was asking him for money and asking him for, I never asked him for anything. And every time we would go to dinner, he would sit next to me. And I was always weird. I was like, why is he sitting next to me? But I was the only one treating him as a regular human being. I wasn't starstruck and I wasn't asking him for everything. I was always asking him, "Hey, Nito, what can I do for you?" And so he had me come and speak to his students. He had me come and speak to his departments and professors at High Point University. And then fast forward 10 years later, he said to me, "Hey, what are you doing in September 2021?" So it was a little bit after COVID. And I said, "Well, nothing." He said, "Well, can you come to High Point?" I said, "Sure." So what I didn't know is that he was awarding me with an honorary Bachelor of Science degree from High Point University because I'm a kid with a ninth grade education from in foster care. I didn't have a degree. And afterwards, we were at dinner, and I said, "Nito, I really appreciate." I mean, he's only given 5 away in 20 years, so just not something he gives away like Tic Tacs. Everybody, this is very rare that he would give, especially from High Point. If you don't know who High Point is, check High Point University out in North Carolina. So I asked him. I said, "So what made you do this?" He said, "Ford." He said, "I've been working with you for decades. You spoke to my high-end mastermind groups. You've helped me personally." And I was honored, right? "And you've helped me with my brands and you've spoke for my companies." He said, "I do not want you to go on stage anymore and say you have a ninth grade education. I want you to say, yes, I have a degree from High Point University." So now I have to behave. I can't cuss. I need to behave. He said that you just need to behave. And so that connection happened with Les Brown because I put myself out there. The Nito Cobain, I put myself out there. The Randy Gage connection, I put myself out there. So if you're sitting in your room in your office, touch grass, get outside your office, go. Even if you hate networking, I hate networking. To me, it was stranger danger. I don't want to go into a room with a bunch of people and try to talk. I don't follow sports teams. I didn't know what to talk about. And so I learned that, the human connection and your focus of your show is the underlying foundation. You can use marketing, digital, and AI, but that human connection has to be the foundation, especially going forward. I'll tell you right now, everybody going forward, the real currency of the future is your communication skills and your networking skills. AI is great,
Absolutely.
but if you don't do those other two things, you're going to be out of business quickly.
That's how I got Randy Gage on the show. I had Bob Berg on the show, and we
Yep.
were talking, and he mentioned his name, and I said, "He's one of the people who I want on my show, and if anybody knows him," and he goes, "Well, I'll introduce you to him." And 10 minutes after the show, Randy's like, "Sure, I'll be on the show." So anybody who really knows Les Brown, he's my number 1 on my bucket list. I'm working
Well,
that list. I'm working on
I would just say that if you go to his social media, he doesn't answer his cell phone. I have his cell phone number. I won't say it out loud. I have
It's
it
okay,
memorized.
that's okay.
But
I
what I
did
would tell you
text
is,
him through LinkedIn today.
yeah, the key is he has a lot of people that manage his stuff, so he probably
Yeah.
won't see it. But what I would do the next time you reach out is say, I was talking to Ford and he mentioned you'd be a great guest. Because I mean, you don't have to say my last name. That might
Well,
get
Ford, he'll know who Ford is.
100%. And that may get, since I managed him for 3 years, he'll know who I am. What I would say is that might get through the noise of the groupies that call and want him to be on shows because he's in high demand.
Of
His
course he
speaking fee now
is.
is 75 grand. And, I called him, he was going to do a thing for Microsoft and their budget was 40. He said, "Ford, I don't get on an airplane less than 75 grand." I said, "All right, Les, I'll keep you in mind, So, but if you don't know who Les Brown is, go to Google, type it in. If you've listened to any motivational video on YouTube, people have scraped Les Brown's content. Like he's the source code for motivation.
He's motivation. I mean, when you wake up in the morning, go turn on YouTube and type in Les Brown. You will be so inspired.
Yep.
He's just such an inspiring fella. I'm in awe of him. So just like I was honestly for you, Ford, I'm like, because I've known of you for so long, and I was like, Ford's on that list. Randy was on that list. I mean, I'm hitting my list.
Well, and then the key is, and here's something else from a marketing standpoint. Everybody listening to this should have their own podcast. I don't care if you're a pressure washing company or a real estate, but by having a podcast, it gives you a chance to network with other people. One of the things I do on my podcast is I make a list of my top 100 brands I want to speak for, and I solicit the CEOs and I tell their story. And then I build their story and do the brand, I interview with them. And then when I'm done, Zelda, they say, "Wow, we have a conference coming up in October. You'd be great. Do you speak to organizations?" Sure. Yeah, that would be great. So of course. So I'm not soliciting them. I'm not selling them on the podcast. I'm telling their story. Tell them about their brand. What was your biggest challenge? What did you learn? What did you wish you knew then? All those things that a podcast host asks. But now I'm using my podcast to solicit. And then what happens is now if you go to my website and you look at the caliber of guests I've got, now you're more apt to get a guest. Because if you hadn't had Bob Berg and Randy Gage, I would not be on this podcast with you. Because if I look at your digital footprint and I don't know who you are, there's a million people asking me. I don't have time to do it, even though I'd love to. It's not that I'm not all that in a bag of chips, everybody. Let me tell you, I'm not acting like that. I'm just saying, from a selection standpoint, I'm
Of
looking for
course.
people that have the reach.
Of
So as you
course.
use these guests, repurposing just like you did when you reached out and you said, "Hey, I'd love to have you on the guest. Here are a couple guests I recently had." That speaks volumes. And same thing you can do with Les Brown. If you go to Les Brown and you say, "Hey, Les, here are three recent guests I had: Ford, Bob, and Randy." He knows who all of us are. We had dinner together, all of us. We know each other
And you
personally.
know Pegeen?
Of course, Pegeen
She's
was
my
a client of
mentor.
mine.
She's my mentor.
Yeah,
I
Pegeen. I built Pegeen's first website, and
She's a neighbor. She lives
yeah,
in the same area I live in, and we have a call every other week.
yeah. So Pegeen,
She's
I helped
awesome.
her decades ago. It was decades ago. I'm sure she's since changed many times as
Oh, yeah.
speakers do. They change. But
Yeah.
yeah, I worked with Pegeen back then, and obviously in the National Speakers Association, she's a rock star. So
She is. She is, and she just won that major award. It was just
yeah.
She's awesome. Well, we are definitely out of time. I am so grateful for that you took the time to reschedule with me and to be on the show. You have such a wealth of knowledge. When you come back to the Central Florida meeting again, I will go again. That was a 5-hour drive.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Zelda.
So you are so welcome. So just remember to my audience that success doesn't happen in isolation. So you have to keep reaching out because in today's world, the connection is the currency of the world, and connections are the new power move. So keep reaching out, and I'd love to connect with you too. Until next week, success through connections.